Welcome to Amazon Legends, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became power sellers, also providers specializing in helping sellers, aggregators that acquire sellers, and former Amazonians will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here is your host, Nick Urison.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. This episode is action-packed, as they say. And you're going to love my next guest because she's been around a long time. She's, in fact, an electronics engineer by training. And we happen to have the same degree because that's also my studies. But her interest led her to data science, first to e-commerce. And of course, being an engineer, we like numbers. So that then ended up putting her in data science. So she's extremely good with numbers. And today she's the CEO of PPC Ninja, which is a PPC agency and also a SaaS platform. And when she's not working, she likes outdoors and travel. With that, everybody, meet my guest, RItu JAva. Welcome back to the show, RItu.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited, and I'm so, surprised that you and I have such a common path that we both took. Started out as engineers and then got into e-commerce and then got into data science. It was like mind-blowing learning that you and I had almost the same path.
But, I have the right to be surprised, but you don't. Because usually this is not for women. Women don't usually have interest. In my class, we had 101 people in my class.
Yeah.
And we had about 15 or so girls in the class. The rest was all boys. So that's why I say, I have the right to be surprised by.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That ratio seems accurate, even in my circumstance, because in engineering college we were just about 10 or so girls, and majority of our class was boys. So yeah, let's go and support women founders and women engineers who made it this far. Thank you so much again for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a pleasure to have you. And by the way, I also want to say this for my listeners, that RItu and I are in a think tank for Amazon, and she's very active. So, she's extremely knowledgeable. So I'm excited to have this episode. So what we're going to talk about today is one of those episodes that will give you so much knowledge that you can take away and apply. Right after this episode is done, go apply them and see the impact. So it's one of those. And like I said, it's action-packed. And since RItu is a PPC expert, we're going to talk about, as we record this in the middle of 2024 almost, is top 10, if we can cover all 10, PPC strategies that get results. That's what we're going to talk about. So with that, let's jump right in, RItu. What's the first one?
Yeah, absolutely. So as of 2024, there's a lot of changes happening with the way match types work. So what we understand of exact match, phrase match, and broad match is actually undergoing a big change. And Amazon has actually updated their help files to reflect that change, because what we would research with keyword tools, etc., and come up with long tail keywords to place as exact match is no longer working in that fashion. It is actually becoming more semantically related to the original keyword than to the exact composition of that keyword. So for example, if I have a keyword like Nike running shoes and I put it in an exact match, there is no guarantee that the word running will not be replaced by something else that Amazon thinks is a very, very close substitute of that word. So semantically related words are making their way in. And so our exact match strategy that used to be probably the best strategy for ranking keywords and for picking up long tail intent that others weren't focusing on is no longer as valid anymore because of the changes that Amazon is undergoing. So what is the alternative? Like, how do we make our keyword research matter? Like, where is the opportunity if everything is going to be changed by Amazon? So we have actually found an alternative, which might be a little surprising to a lot of people, but for us at PPC Ninja, we have been future-proofing ourselves for the past 2 years. And let me tell you what that match type is. It's actually a variant of the broad match, and it's called the broad match modifier, right? So for those of you who've never heard this term before, I'll explain it simply. Broad match modifiers are a type of broad match, except that each word in the sequence of words in that keyword needs to have a plus sign in front of it, right? So for example, in my previous example of Nike running shoes, I would transform that keyword into plus Nike, no space between, then a space, and then plus running, and then another space plus shoes. So what that does is that it gives Amazon the signal that, hey, only when a search term contains these 3 words, Nike and running and shoes in any order, in any combination with other words, as long as those 3 words are left intact, then it's a match, right? So what this does is that it makes sure that the quality of your keyword doesn't deteriorate because of their semantic synonyms and so on. So you're making sure that the words that matter to you for matches are present. So I would recommend really looking at future-proofing yourself and making broad match modifier one of the important match types for anything. Like even for ranking, you can actually use a long tail match type, which is a broad match modifier, to generate sales for a word that is powerful in terms of search volume, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first hack. Nick, did you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so for our listeners, I just want to make sure we nail this down because, Amazon is always precision. So plus first keyword, and then no space, plus, and then space the next keyword, or no space?
Okay, so I'll say it again. So it's between the plus sign and the word, there is no space. But between the word, there is space. So plus Nike is like 1 unit. Then you have a space. Then plus running is 1 unit. Then you have a space. And then plus shoes is 1 unit. Yeah.
Okay. The other question is, if you go to the reports and you pull the targeting report, sponsored product or whatever, and in that targeting report, it shows you exact match, broad match. Does this show up as an option, broad match variant, or is this like a conceptual name or not? Which one?
Yeah, so it shows up as broad match. So in the targeting match type, it'll say broad, but the actual keyword will have pluses in them.
Okay, because the other question I was going to ask, if you do this, but do you track ACoS per campaign, per match type and things like that?
Yeah, there's many different ways to slice and dice your data, and definitely slicing it by match type is one way, because then it'll tell you where you have the best opportunity. You can also slice it based on conversion rate, not ACoS. You can say, what's the conversion rate of my broad match modifiers versus exact match, right? And so there's many different ways to to analyze this.
Great. Okay. Perfect. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, okay, great. So the next one is, placement optimization. And this is not talked about enough because it is complex. It is very hard to achieve placement modifier optimization. Now, what is a placement modifier? For those of you who have, some idea of placement modifiers, you know that there's three placements. There is top of search, there is rest of search, and then there is product pages. So three different placements that correspond to a single keyword bid. So when you have, let's say, a bid of $1, that keyword and that bid will actually internally split up into three different placements, and you might actually have different CPCs on different placements. One of the classic ways of like ranking certain keywords that people teach is that, hey, go and put a big modifier on the top of search, which will essentially boost your base bid of $1 to whatever amount you specify. Like, let's say you have a modifier of 100%, that means that your base bid of $1 becomes $2 because you're adding 100% on that. So you get to a $2 bid just for that one placement. So you can actually engineer your campaign so that it works like this. Now, over time, each of your placements will start to generate data. So you'll have a different set of impressions, count of impressions, clicks, sales, and you'll be able to see the other metrics around ACoS and conversion rate, etc. And you can get this data for each of the three match types. So you'll have it for top of search, rest of search, and product pages. Now you have to do the whole optimization thing, but as you know, you can only optimize the base bid. You can change the base bid, or you can change the placement modifier, right? Or you can change both, right? So how do you go about modifying your bid so that you can get the best target ACoS or the best ACoS on each of those placements? So you'll have to do a little bit of reverse math where you try to find out what is your CPC on each of these placements, and then try to figure out if you can change your base bid to a lower amount and then apply a placement modifier. Will it be able to reach the same kind of imaginary bid that Amazon will then take in order to kind of place you in the auction? So placement modification and optimization is not a trivial task. It does require some thinking and some reverse math, but that is honestly the best way of doing optimization, because otherwise you're only tweaking your base bid. And some people don't even take advantage of placement modifiers because either they're afraid of it or they don't understand how things can go out of hand, and they do. If you're not careful with your placement modifiers, you can actually mess things up, right? So this is a little bit of an advanced technique, but if you can understand it and if you can get it, then it's the best thing for you.
So as far as the placements, you have three, as you put it, you have three options there: top of the search, and the search, and the product page. Yeah. But you can have combinations of it, like 70% top of the search, 30% search. How do you deal with that? Is it the same way?
Yeah, so you can set totally different placement modifiers for each of the placement based on the performance history of that placement. So you can optimize it, assuming that that's the only placement, but you also need to change the base bid because the modifier is applied on top of the base bid.
Yeah. So the engineer in me kicks in, and when I see these situations, I say, okay, 70% here, 30% there. So there is no way to slice that whole thing, and that this is what the 70% did. This is what we can't do that, right? We have to take the whole thing as one entity and say, what did this deliver, right?
Well, actually, you can do it by individual placements. You can splice it up. And so let's say if the placements are giving you different performances, you want to see what placement is going to give you the best optimal performance, and then you optimize based on that. And then everything else is either reduced much lower or increased higher, depending on the relative performance of that page. So it's not trivial. It requires a bit of spreadsheet work, but at least you can start thinking in that direction and not just be random about just placing large modifiers on the top of search, for example. That doesn't always work, especially if you're looking at profitable conversions.
Yeah, cool. Okay, let's
Yeah.
move on to the next one.
Yeah, so the third point I had for you is basically to do with the health of your auto campaigns. Now, I know that people have mixed feelings about auto campaigns. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people don't know what to do. They're like, I don't know, auto campaigns. But auto campaigns, when set up correctly, can actually give you a pretty good results, because Amazon knows a lot about your product, especially when it's stable and it's been around for a bit. It knows a lot of details about your product, as well as the types of people who are interested in your product. So they do some sort of profiling so that they know exactly who to show your ads to, so that it's very customized, gives people a nice experience, because they're looking for something and they're in the aisle for some sort of product, and your product can be shown if there's a match with their keywords that they're typing in. Now, a lot of times what happens is that the auto campaigns tend to favor your branded searches, which means it's a convenient way for Amazon to make conversions, right? To make money. If, let's say, someone types Nike running shoes, they might, and that's a bad example actually in this case, but I'm just saying some brand name, replace Nike with anything else that's more popular. So let's say that was the keyword. Now, if you have an auto campaign running, a close match campaign running, what it's going to do is it will try to get you sales by using your own brand name combination. So it could be Nike sports shoes, Nike women's shoes. It'll start to show your auto campaign each time someone types Nike anything, right? And that's cannibalizing, because you want to control your spend, and you don't want the entire campaign to be composed of branded searches, which may have come through some other more controlled campaign, or might have happened through an organic conversion. So the third PPC strategy that I wanted to share with you today, based on what we're doing at PPC Ninja Agency, is that we actually create two sets of auto campaigns, especially for our bigger brands, where branded searches can eat up most of the budget of your auto campaign. So what do? We create a non-branded campaign for the purpose of generating new discovery, right? So what we'll do is we will create the auto campaigns as usual, as normal, but then we will negate the branded terms, right, and the branded misspellings, etc. And we will also negate all of their ASINs as product negations in those campaigns. So what happens then is that when someone is specifically looking for a branded term, your auto campaign won't get fired, right? So that's a nice way of keeping your budget clean and making sure that your budget is actually going towards the purpose of keyword discovery, because that's what you want it to do for the most part, right? So that way we have one set of campaigns that we tag them as non-branded, NBR, we just tag them, and that way they will not bring in any branded conversions. On the other hand, we do want Amazon to give us some exposure to our branded terms, but at a very low ACoS. Like, we don't want to spend tons of money to get those branded sales in. So what we do in that case is the second set of auto campaigns we have, we don't put any negations in that, and we keep the bids pretty low, like super low, because we know that Amazon will try to only match that with our branded terms, because we can win them for cheap. And we keep the target ACoS of those campaigns to be super low, let's say like 5% or something, 5% target ACoS for auto campaigns. So that way it forces your branded keywords to come in through the cheaper auto campaign, and the non-branded keywords to come into the more expensive, slightly more expensive campaign in a cleaner way. So you can separate those two out, and that way you can have a much better result with your auto campaigns. It's not like wasted, you know. So that's the third tip for you guys if you want to try it. Now, this will
Well,
only work if you have like a certain brand presence and you have a branded name that does bring in a certain number of sales. This can help you there.
well, I mean, obviously they need to be brand registered, right? It's ironic that we shouldn't be really saying this because anybody selling on Amazon their own products really ought to be brand registered, but there are still some who don't. I have a group myself for Amazon sellers, and somebody said today only, a posting said, "Oh, apparently my account was hijacked and seller support is not helping me." And I connected them with somebody, but I asked, "Are you on brand registry?" He said, "Not yet." So, it's important. Now, I have one question. So I heard you say that you negate the brand and the ASINs. What do you
Yes.
mean by ASINs? Every ASIN has your brand, right?
Yeah, so you can basically add two types of negations in your auto campaign. You can do keyword negations and you can do product negations. So in the product negation section, you put your list of ASINs and that's what gets negated. So that way, you know, it's not going to show up when, if you're on one page and another ad of another one of your products shows up there, because your goal in that campaign type is to generate new stuff, not the stuff you already have. Like it's not like a cross-marketing goal in that campaign. But the other campaign can do it, you know, because that is meant for brand defense, but we're doing it at a much cheaper a cost. Like we're not going whole hog and, you know, going extravagant on our bids in that other campaign that was branded or supposedly focused on branded.
Yeah. So when you are negating the ASINs, you don't mean all your ASINs. You only leave the ASINs you want to generate keywords for.
No, we do it for all because you never know what path people might take. They might start with one of your ASINs and then they might end up in another because they're clicking around, right? So for the purpose of creating non-branded searches and non-branded intent, we don't use that campaign type for mixing it with, you know, coming from any direction. We keep it pretty clean so that we can get more control and we can get more keyword discovery. It's not just cannibalizing itself with, you know, cross marketing of our own catalog. Yeah.
Cool. And the number that you suggest is for the branded ones is about 5% ACoS. That's what you're shooting for.
Well, that's just an example. So it depends.
Oh.
Every brand has their own goals in terms of brand defense, because some brands want to show up pretty prominently, and they don't want to have they don't want anybody else to take their share of the market. In which case, your goal is different. You actually probably want a single keyword campaign just targeting your branded keywords with a pretty high top of search and a pretty high target ACoS so that you can always capture those spots and not let anybody else in. That's a fair strategy for someone who is a little bit more established and is worried that competition will steal their spots away.
Yeah, cool. I understand. When I start with a new seller and then we launch them and we start the PPC campaign, the first thing they do is I say to them, look, if you want to see your listings, because it's very new, it has to build history, but fairly quickly you'll be able to see yourself and then just go type your brand name. And then, you know, when it comes right up, they kind of feel good. Oh, you know.
Right. Yes.
So when you tone it down, really, you know, dial it down, then obviously it's going to be much, much less. I understand.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. All
Next
right. Next one. Yeah, so the next one is something that we're trying out at PPC Ninja and it's working pretty well. It's single purpose sponsored brand headline ads. So I'll explain each of the parts to what I'm saying here. What's a single purpose? So a single purpose sponsored brand ad has only one keyword in it. And if one keyword is too hard for you, then maybe a collection of keywords that are so tight and very, very similar to each other, let's say 3 to 5 keywords, that's all you have. That's all you're targeting in that campaign. Then to go with that keyword, you have an image that describes those keywords perfectly, meaning you're not using a random image and a totally different set of keywords. You're matching them very, very closely. Then the headline that comes up in your sponsored brand headline ad needs to absolutely use the same keyword in the headline itself. So in a sense, what I'm saying is that you can make your headline copy very, very boring. So for example, if your keyword is stainless steel garlic press, then if your headline is stainless steel garlic press, according to me, that's a great headline. Now, most people will be like, oh, no, we need to make it fancy and all that stuff. No, you don't need to do that. If you want to make it fancy, then you're essentially losing your customers' attention because they actually typed stainless steel garlic press. And the first ad that shows up on the search results page is, guess what? It's the sponsored brand. And if you can magically read their mind by just engineering your ad in such a way that what they type is what they see, you can basically grab their attention like right away. So what we like to do is we keep our headlines pretty plain and boring. They exactly describe the keyword that's inside so that there's a good match there. Now you might want to add extra details on it in order to kind of make it more explanatory. Like for example, if stainless steel garlic press, and maybe you can say, I'm trying to think, with let's say plastic handle or something. If you know that there is some extra attribute that is important to people based on your understanding of reviews and this and that, what people like, what they don't like, if you want to add anything extra at the end of that copy, that's fine, no problem. So but what you lead with is the word they typed, right? And that's what is in your keywords itself. Now you can use ChatGPT for generating these headlines. We actually like to give ChatGPT a list and say, hey, for these keywords, please generate a copy which includes that word or a very, very close variant of that word in the headline, so that basically, yeah, that's the goal of that headline, to grab people's attention and not distract them. I've seen headlines that are so broad and vague and dreamy that it loses people's attention. Like live a great life, or something like make your kitchen a wonderful place, or something weird like that. It's not necessary to be flowery in your headline ad. Be very, very precise. So that's the way you can hack even a sponsored brand ad to work like a bottom of funnel ad instead of an upper funnel ad, which Amazon wants you to believe that it's an upper funnel brand awareness building ad. We always try to make our sponsored brand ads very, very bottom of funnel. So now you've set up your headline, you've set up your image, you've picked your 3 SKUs, or even one SKU will be fine, as long as you send traffic to a store page landing page, right? So if let's say you have a store page with just one ASIN, that's fine. Then you just pick up that as your landing page for your ad, and all you have on that page is just that one product, and repeat the lifestyle photo that you have, or if it's a video that you're using, then repeat that on that page so that there's a continuity of the funnel. People are seeing something, then they click on it, then they go to that page, they see the same thing, so it's reinforcing, and then they have the product, and the product needs to have the buy box button right there. Don't try to make it fancy or pretty by making them click one more time to actually go out and then find out more about the product. You don't want that. You want to retain their attention. You don't want them to be distracted by anything, or don't add friction to the process. right? So that's how we set up single purpose landing pages, and it works really, really well.
Keyword should be at the beginning, right?
It's better. It's always better to lead with the keyword so that it catches their attention and they think you're doing magic on them because that's what they typed and that's what they saw.
Yeah, because that's what they they were doing their search. Whatever they type up comes the listing, and then you have. Is it better in terms of video versus image? Which one? Do you have
Yeah.
any results on that?
Yeah, actually, that was going to be my next point. So let's go into that. So the next one was sponsored brand video. Again, with the single purpose landing page concept. Again, that's another funnel. Now, video does really well when you have a visual type of product. For example, clothes, or let's say you have some sort of room decor, something that's more visual and people need to see it in order to kind of uh, explore it more, because everybody has their own vibe, right? They like certain colors, they like certain styles. So if you can show your video with the styles that you're catering to, let's say you have a bohemian style clothing line, and if your video shows like a bunch of bohemian styled models wearing that, or even if you show a slideshow of different dresses going by really quickly, uh, that actually is better aligned with a video ad type of situation. Now, you can set your video ad to the top of that search results page by simply setting the destination to be a store page landing page. So just by making that distinction, you can set up video ads so that they show up at the top. Now, should you do both? Why not? There's no harm in doing both sponsored brand headline and sponsored brand video headline. So both of these will take up a slice of the pie. Meaning, if you have an impressions pie and you have, all these different people in the auction, some of your impressions will go to the static image ad, and some will go to a video ad. That's fine, and then you can find out how each one is doing, and if you see one converting better than other, then you can switch to that or put more budget behind it, etc. So either case, you want to have a single purpose when you design these ads. Most people they skip the hard work and they just be lazy, and they either they throw something together, some broad keywords together, and some general purpose image. Don't do that. You be more intentional about your choices. Actually, one more tip about the image: the more zoomed in your image is, the better results you will get. So don't go after long shots. Go after zoomed in shots.
I have a question for my listeners. Are you experiencing cash flow challenges with your Amazon business? Well, silly question. Who is not, right? So let me introduce you to Viably, a unique solution tailored for Amazon sellers and e-commerce enterprises. By connecting your Seller Central or Shopify account, you can promptly access funding along with a variety of financial tools, all for a flat fee. It's as simple as that. And for my listeners, they are offering an extra $1,500 in funding for eligible applications. Start your quick and easy application today at runviably.com/legends. And that's runviably.com/legends. Okay. So this is also a good time for me to mention my thing that I recently heard. So Amazon advertising team, one of the team members shared with me that when people see a product on the sponsored product listing and they click on it and they make their purchase, the sales cycle can be as much as 90 days. In other words, if your exposure is limited to just sponsored products, then you are taking much, much longer to monetize your cost for advertising compared to using a mix of sponsored product, sponsored brand, and sponsored display. because apparently using those in combination and with video and image and whatever that is, that apparently reduces the sales cycle, because people get to see your brand, your product in many ways. And the number that they shared with me is your entire campaign spending, 66% should be sponsored product, and the rest should be a mix. That way, you will see the sales cycle reduce drastically. So what you shared is even more focus on sponsored brand, which probably will, if somebody is searching something and they see exactly what they searched, and there is no distraction, they one click, it goes to the store page, and there is an add to cart page and a button there, then clearly they are more likely to complete the purchase than just, do it later.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
great tip.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah.
We are really marching forward. So let's move on to the next one.
Yep, let's do it. Okay. So number 6 is search query performance. Now, search query performance is organic data that comes from Amazon. Now, it does have a little bit of ad data also, but for the most part, it's organic data. You can download the top 100 keywords for each ASIN in your catalog as per Amazon. So what does that mean? These are words that Amazon has literally blessed you with in terms of relevancy. They think you are relevant for these 100 keywords. Now, in some cases, those 100 may not be 100. You might just have 40 or 50 keywords that Amazon is considering you to be relevant for, but that's okay. Whatever you get from the SQP, start downloading it, right? So we actually have a tool that helps to analyze thousands of different ASINs across different months. We put it all together, we stitch it together, and then we throw up some Looker Studio reports to try and figure out what is the strength of each search query performance report for a particular, each search query for a particular ASIN. And we calculate the strength metric by dividing, now this is the math part of it, by dividing the purchase share by impression share. So if you can remember those two terms and just divide them, you will get a number. And if that number is greater than 1, it means that your purchase share is larger than your impression share. So if your purchase share is larger than your impression share, this means that you have some strength there, right? You're higher than everything else on the market. You're gaining more in terms of conversions than you're gaining in terms of impressions. So if only you could push those keywords, you would be able to capture some really good conversions. So what do you do with searches that have high strength? Well, you want to create single keyword campaigns with that. You can create sponsored product ads, that's fine. You can also do single keyword sponsored brand ads, which we do all the time to support. Like you were saying earlier, if you do both, you have a better chance of a conversion than if you just do one type of ad, because it gives you different placements. They see you in multiple locations, and then it helps visually also to help them convert. So search query performance, convert those keywords into single keyword campaigns. You can do either broad match modifiers, like I explained in my first tip, convert them into broad match modifiers, or you can also supplement that with exact match. So you can have 2 types of campaigns running in parallel that are both single keyword.
Okay. All right. So now you just stepped onto one of my interest areas, search query performance. So I spent a lot of time on this in
Great.
terms of what is included, what is not included in search query performance. So in the final analysis, having spoken to some Amazon engineers, this is what's included. Sponsored product based on the placement, not the whole thing, but based on the placement. If the sponsored product is on the search results page, top, or the rest of the search, then it's included. Otherwise, it's not
Yes.
included. So in other words, if you look at the sponsored product campaign performance and you say, okay, 1,000 clicks on a particular keyword, and then you go to search query performance and it shows 3,000 clicks, you cannot simply extract the 1,000 from 3,000 and say, oh, I got 2,000 clicks organically. No, it all comes down to placement. So number one. Number two, sponsored brand, sponsored display, not included. So
Yeah.
those clicks also need to be added if you want to see the total picture. Now comes where I have a bit of a problem with this approach that you shared with us. They have that search query performance report has only 24-hour attribution. In other words, anything that was either added to cart or purchased, if they took place in 24 hours, that's all that's included. So, as you know, people don't buy immediately. So they take, like, for example, all the advertising reports for the purposes of measuring and tracking ACoS, we look at 7 days, right? So here we don't have that option. So therefore, aren't we leaving out some credible amount of data by simply looking at the 24-hour performance when we calculate the purchase share divided by impression share?
Right. So, all the points you mentioned are exactly the way I understand it also. It doesn't include all the ads. It is based on placement and the third thing of 24-hour attribution. All three of those things are accurate. Now, will I just discard SQP because it has less data? No, because it still tells me what Amazon thinks are the most relevant keywords for me. And I'm going to take that list because if I can align with what Amazon already thinks of me, I have a better chance than trying to figure out new keywords that are not even on that list, right? So at least those keywords that are in that list need to be looked at with some extra focus, right? We can't just ignore them. So for that purpose, that list is valuable to me. Another important way in which we filter out the SQP report is based on the median price. Now, what is median price? In the comprehensive download, since Nick, you're very into SQP, you'll know that there's a comprehensive download, and then there's also extra columns that you can display. One of the extra columns is median price point. So what that tells me is that for a particular keyword, there is what Amazon thinks is the average price of the product purchased when that keyword was entered. So let's say the average or median price point of a search query is showing up as $40. And let's say my product is $100. Should I be going after that keyword because my product is not gonna, be anywhere close to that? I should probably not. That does not make sense because anytime someone types that keyword, they're going to end up buying that cheaper product. So why waste my ad dollars on trying to push that keyword more than any other more low-hanging fruit? So the way I look at SQP is for any low-hanging stuff that I can lay my hands on. It's aligned with Amazon's understanding of my product, and if I can find any, overlap with what they think my product is and what I know my product is, then I will pick that Venn diagram of overlap, and I will analyze that for the best performing keywords. Now, because it has only 24-hour attribution, this means that the purchase share is only going to get better. If let's say I had 7-day attribution, the purchase share that I'm using is only going to get better. So that average that I have set, purchase share divided by impression share, the numerator is going to go up with more attribution. So I'm going to take it as my base, as my very base. Yeah.
Now again, two engineers talking to each other. So what I
Yes.
would do is, this is, first of all, this is a great way to separate out. So think about it this way. If you have any purchases at all, because if you have no purchases, zero, so this is irrelevant. But if you have any purchases at all, which happen in the first 24 hours, that means something. So you want to pay attention to those, period. Anyway, so that's a good way. What I would do on top of what you suggested is a little bit more complex, but I will track over time. In other words, take one ASIN and then take multiple reports like month one or week 2, week 3, week 4, and then how many times that keyword scored. And the chances are that keyword will not even appear in some of those. So if you looked at, say, 12 periods, and in all 12 periods, out of 100 keywords, 18 of them appeared in all 12, that's definitely a win. The percentage doesn't even matter anymore, because
Right.
what you're looking at is the consistency so in other words, I would be measuring the consistency of the performance of a keyword rather than how much it's getting.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
totally.
that's another way, and what a great approach. It calls for a time series calculation. It's a lot more complex, but
Yes.
nevertheless, it would pay off. Great.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that time series, the way you mentioned it, is exactly what we have in our Looker Studio. We've actually created time series showing month over month movement. And you're absolutely right. In some months, those words appear in the top 100, and in some months, they just drop off because of data sufficiency. So it's a combination of all of that. And if you see it over time, you will find the ones that are consistent. Those are your gems. You want to pick them up. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Awesome.
So how many have we done so far?
6. We've done 6.
6. Okay, let's do the 7th one.
Okay, got it. Okay, so the next one is something called deal stacking. Now, it's a little bit different from the regular PPC advertising that we're talking about, but you know how conversion rate is such an important thing. If your conversion rate is high, then you can win your PPC at a much cheaper rate because you need fewer clicks to make a conversion. So what we've discovered is this concept of deal stacking, and I'm pretty sure I heard it in some conference or something. Someone was sharing how they do deal stacking. So deal stacking is this idea that you have multiple coupon type things stacking on each other, and it actually increases the perceived value of the deal, by a great amount if they see multiple coupons on a particular ASIN. So let's say you have the strike through price, that's one positive. Then you have, let's say, like a prime exclusive deal, and you have a coupon, that's called deal stacking. So when someone sees 3 of them, all 3 will apply, meaning whatever you're offering, they'll take all of it, and it'll help improve the conversion rate. Now you might say, oh, but I don't want to waste so much money on it. But some products do need a kick once in a while. And in fact, a lot of Chinese sellers are doing this pulsing strategy of they run some sort of prime exclusive deal or some sort of lightning deal or some sort of deal every 2 weeks. That's what I've noticed. And they don't do it exactly at the 2-week mark. They're somewhat kind of asymmetric about it. Sometimes they do it in 14 days, sometimes they do it faster, but that's basically triggering spikes in sales and keeping the momentum going, which is what Amazon is looking at in terms of signals. So I would say, try stacking your deals and see if you can move some of your immovable inventory that's sitting there. And I'm sure everybody has that, right? 1 out of 10 products succeed, the rest are just maybe duds or middling.
Yeah.
So yeah, try deal stacking as one of the options to kind of support your other efforts at advertising.
Well, I mean, how does that play into the conversion rate in terms of, when I say conversion rate, I take it back. How does that play into the Amazon algorithm? Because you are reducing the order value, right? So the final order value, it keeps getting discounted. It's going to be much smaller amount. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think Amazon is overall, Amazon is designed to be a deals platform. Like they want the cheapest price, they want the best deal, and they want their customers to feel like they're winning because they will keep coming back. So I think that the average order value of such a deal might be more important to the seller than it is to Amazon. Amazon looks at sales velocity, and if you can generate sales velocity and you can generate a higher conversion rate, then it actually helps you. And Amazon loves it. They want more. They want more sales.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
Well, there is a point here that I have to mention because this is neglected heavily by especially smaller sellers. It's not knowing the net impact of offering a discount in your P&L. What I'm talking about has nothing to do with advertising. It's all about unit economics. So when sellers decide what their price is going to be, they say, okay, if I sell this for $49.95, I'm buying it for, let's make it real good deal, $10 landed. So selling it for $50, buying for $10, and they pay 15% to Amazon. 15% of $50 is $7.50. And then let's say they pay $6 for FBA. So it's another, say, 12%. So 12% plus 15%. And then they have their tacos, right? Let's say that they're doing such a great job and it's only 10%. So 12% FBA, 15% commission, 10% tacos, you add them all up. So now you are at 37%. Plus the landed cost was 25%, buying at $10 for $50 item. So now you are at about 60+% already spent without storage, without anything. Now, to plan it this way, it's fine. But when the rubber meets the road and numbers start to come in, if they don't account for the gross revenue and then show the discounts they offered as a line item, but instead they just book the net sales, which is what Amazon will provide for you, then they will never know if they are bleeding or not, or
Right.
when they were bleeding and when they were making money. So as soon as people start talking about coupons and discounts and anything else, I just get very nervous about, okay, how are you going to account for this? Because that being able to break down that settlement report and then post your gross revenue and then show the discount as a line item is the only way for you to be able to say, okay, we offered so much discount, and then this is how much we paid in other expenses. Then this is how much money we made. Or if you lost money, then this is the reason why we lost money. So then they can go back and adjust, okay, the most discount that we can offer is this. So it's something I always, at the end of the day, I look at the whole business in terms of how it's performing, what's the profitability. You could be doing great with your advertising and everything else, but if these other business operations are not handled the right way, then you can actually lose it all.
Totally understand. Yeah, I totally get that. So yeah, I think there's a few other things to remember, that your coupon or your discount doesn't have to be a large number. For example, a coupon, as long as it's the smallest that you can think of, all you need is the badge. It's the badge that gets people interested in your product, not so much exactly how much it is. So I would say stick with the lowest. And generally speaking, coupons have a redemption rate of between 20 to 40%. So it's pretty low. It's not like everybody's going to clip on the coupon. They'll see it, they'll be attracted to it, they'll step into it, but they won't clip it. So you don't actually spend that whole amount. But yes, after the fact, do exactly what Nick was saying. Make sure that those are separate line items so that you can do the math properly. And then you can weigh the whole situation of whether it's okay to have, like a large inventory that isn't moving versus, a highly kind of optimized, profitability, because sometimes you get stuck with certain products that don't move and you need to pulse it. And this is a strategy for those products in that space where you're kind of stuck with lots of inventory and it's not moving. So prime exclusive deals can help improve the conversion rate of low converting products, as long as the product is a good product. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is one other tip I can share with you. You probably do this. So this is not for the coupons, but those clip coupons, but this is for the promotion. So if you create a promotion which gets displayed on the product page, and you can show several of those, you can create several, and then select them to be combinable, first of all, so that this becomes deal stacking. But what you can do is you can elect to display the promotion on the product detail page, but require a coupon code to be entered. So when you create the promotion, you select that option and a coupon code will be generated. If you want Amazon to generate, you just click the button, it will generate, or you plug in yours. Not every single thing you enter will be accepted. So don't just make up coupon codes yourself thinking that it's going to be accepted. But once the coupon code is determined and you create the promotion, select to display on the product detail page, it's going to be displayed with a $sign next to it. So these are special deals available. And plus you have your clip coupon, and that's going to incentivize the shopper to make the purchase. But guess what they do? They forget to copy the coupon code and they check out without actually redeeming it. So
exactly,
always require a coupon code. But if you really look at it, go back and see how many people redeem. Not too many will redeem. They'll just forget. So that's another tip.
correct. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So,
Awesome.
Ritu, I'm afraid that this is all we can do because we've run out of time.
Yeah.
So we covered 7. I mean, I
Yeah.
had you right.
Hey, we can always do another one.
Yes,
We have
definitely.
more.
I mean,
So yeah.
listen, I've had the pleasure of several of my guests come back and do a reappearance. We will definitely do that. So we'll call this Winning PPC Strategies Part 1, and then we'll do another one, and then we'll cover it and cover some of the things that Amazon just released with sponsored brand and sponsored display. So
Sounds
now
great.
we've got a few minutes left, and this is my favorite part of every show, where I get to learn about my guests. So I know you and I'm not interested in your resume. Usually in this few minutes, I'd like to get to know the person in terms of what kind of life experiences brought you here to do what you're doing. And I'm not talking about school either. I'm talking about growing up as a kid. So, I mean, you are a woman, first of all. It's unusual for a woman to be an entrepreneur. Being, our generation, so to speak, at least. So how is it that a young girl growing up ends up being an electronics engineer and an entrepreneur and starts a company? So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think I would maybe like to introduce my grandfather, who is no more, but my grandfather was probably the only other entrepreneur in my family. So he was there, and then everybody else, like my dad, my aunts and my siblings, none of them have, well, maybe my sister has a little bit of the, the entrepreneurial thing, but for the most part, they're regular people doing regular jobs. And, my mom's doctor and dad's been a professor at a university. So my grandfather actually was a merchant in pre-partition India. So as you guys know, in 1947, India was split into 2 countries. My grandfather used to live on the other side in Pakistan, which at the end of partition, or when the partition happened, he actually traveled to Delhi along with the whole family, and he settled in India as a refugee. Because of the religious differences, right? They split the country based on whether you're Hindu or Muslim. So Now, my grandfather came with very little, but he was able to, in no time, he was able to set up a very simple business of, just buying yarn. Like there's like these bundles of yarn, and he would use one of his tools that he had into these little balls. So take yarn and convert it to balls, then go and sell it back into the market. So that was his kind of daily routine. I would see him on his bicycle. He would ride like 10 kilometers in the morning, buy the yarn, do the processing, and then, in a few days' time, go back and sell it and so on. So I observed my grandfather being an entrepreneur at that age, and I saw how amazing his whole kind of life was with exploring different things and just having that freedom of being able to do whatever he wanted. If his mind said, "Oh, I want to learn Persian at the age of 60," which he did, he went and learned Persian, and that also inspired me because I went and learned Japanese at the age of 26. So I think my grandfather has been an inspiration for me and continues to be in the way he handled people, how he was kind. He was very careful about his body, doing lots of exercise every day, 2 hour walk and stuff like that. So that I think inspired me, and I think children are impressionable. They learn from what they're seeing, what they observe. And I spent a lot of time with my grandfather. He taught me how to bike, he taught me how to swim, he taught me how to walk and all that stuff. So I don't know if that answers, but yeah,
Well, I mean,
that's kind of my inspiration.
I'm assuming you had a great relationship with your grandfather.
Yeah.
And you have a sister also?
Yes, I have a sister and a brother. Yeah.
And is his relationship the same with them, or was this a special one with you?
No, I think all of us had a good amount of time that we spent with him. Obviously, I was the oldest, so I left the house sooner than the others. But I think we all got good enough time, and I think all three of us have imbibed some of his qualities, in some way or the other.
So what I'm hearing from you is the freedom he had and the kind of diversity of things that he jumped into is what appealed to you.
A
So
lot, yes.
and I'm assuming you wanted to do those things yourself.
Yeah, and it didn't come to me right away because I did a regular job for the longest time. It was only much later when I was in Japan that I was bitten by the e-commerce bug, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can sell this thing. So, then it all comes back. Whatever input we've had as a kid, it comes back, and nothing in life is wasted. Like all of the training that I had in my different companies helped me to get to a place where I could then quickly combine all my knowledge and accelerate my progress.
Yeah. So I have a bit of a deep question for you. So do
Yeah.
you think that your affection for your love for your grandfather, was that the reason, like you wanted to be like him, or you actually genuinely liked the freedom and the diversity of the kind of life he had? Which one was more of a
Yeah.
law?
That's so interesting. I think it's a bit of both. Like I remember being an early bird like him. He would get up at 4 a.m. every day, and that's how I kind of got into, early morning stuff. So I'm also an early bird. Like I get up much earlier than most people. So I remember his thing in the morning used to be make a pot of tea and then sit down under his table lamp and then just practice something, either a book he's reading and he'd keep making notes and always educating himself. He was learning Persian, so he was like, practicing the calligraphy, writing Persian and things like that. So I was just fascinated by, everything he did and everything he taught us. It was just fascinating. So I continue to be inspired by that. And yes, the love for him was probably a big motivation for me to kind of want to be like him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's I also had a special relationship with my grandfather, and my grandfather was not an entrepreneur. He was a two-star general, and he was
Okay.
extremely disciplined, and I was the firstborn, so therefore, I was named after him and everything. So he paid
Mm.
special attention to me. So I understand totally what it's like to have that relationship with your grandfather. And obviously, he did a great job. I'm sure you miss him. Did he
Yes.
see your success as a woman entrepreneur, business owner? I'm sure he's smiling. So it's great. Well,
Yeah.
Ritu, this is a great conversation. We will definitely do part two. So tell us, how can people reach you? Share your contact information with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I am most active on LinkedIn. So if you look up my full name, RItu JAVA, you'll be able to find me, and feel free to either follow or connect. And I post a lot of content there. And yeah, that's probably the best way to stay in touch.
Great, great. Thank you. Great conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. Again, I'm so surprised still that we have so much in common. I'm also the oldest in the family, and you have that same thing. So yeah,
There
many,
is
many
more.
things.
There is more. I will tell
There is
you.
more.
There
Okay.
is
Awesome.
more.
Well,
Great.
looking forward to the next time, and we'll unpack more stuff that we couldn't cover today, and other stuff that I have on my list. So thank you so much, Nick, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Definitely. Before I go, a quick reminder to say goodbye to your cash flow problems and claim your extra $1,500 when you qualify for $25,000 or more in funding. Go to www.runviably.com/legends and start your application today. Thank you. And this brings us to the end of another episode. And I'll see you next.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the episode, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too.